Hi everyone, my name is Anne. Welcome to Art on the Creek. This is my home studio in Parker, Colorado, where the weather could not be more perfect right now. It is the end of summer, beginning of fall as I'm filming this, and we have had some crystal clear blue skies. The leaves are just starting to turn, and the mornings are crisp and cool. The evenings are crisp and cool. It's great sleeping weather. And I'm just in a really good mood. I get creative bursts of energy every fall, so hopefully you guys will take advantage of that and run with it. No matter where you're watching, I hope that you are having a really good day and enjoying your weather as well. But what I wanted to share with you is if you're a channel member, you are seeing this before everyone else. One of the benefits of being a channel member is being able to catch some of my reviews before the rest of the general public. So you are seeing this a bit early, getting a little upper hand on perhaps some quantities that might be limited. I don't know if that's true or not for this particular product, but sometimes things do sell out quickly. So if you're a channel member and you really want to know what's new and what's available right away, then this might be the place for you. So what I want to review today, now these have been around for a while, this isn't a new product, but I think a lot of you have really been interested in and maybe have not tried the Michael Harding watercolors. I purchased their introductory set, I think is what it's called, and it has Hansa Yellow Medium, I think it's medium, yeah. Hansa Yellow Medium, a quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. And I do have one more tube that we're going to get into as well. But because it's fall and because the leaves are turning, I've got kind of a fun way to swatch these out. So let's go play a little and see what Michael Harding is all about. Shall we? Here we go. So here we have it. We're going to be using the Saunders Waterford 100% cotton fat pad that I've been enjoying. This is rough because I want to really accentuate any granulation that might happen. For those of you that might be new to the medium, you'll see that term a lot, granulation. What it means is when you look at watercolor paper, you can see it has this texture. So there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it is to refract the light differently back to our eyes because this is a transparent medium. Part of it is this is the way that it's pressed down and made. It gets an imprint on the paper. The other part is because when you're using granulating paints, paints that granulate, which means the particles are of different sizes, the heavier particles sink down into those little deep parts on your watercolor paper, and the more translucent parts will, that's not really the way to phrase it, the lighter particles will stay up on the surface more. So you'll get a look that really highlights the texture of your paper. The rougher the paper, the more texture, and this is rough, so let's see if we can get some good granulation off of some of these paints that we're working with today. You can use any type of texture that you want. Knot is a UK terminology. I don't know where else it's used. If you're from a different country and you guys use that terminology too, let me know. But if it is not textured, if it says not right there, that means cold press in the United States. And there's also hot press, which is very smooth. And if you're a botanical artist, maybe that would be better for you. So you just have to find whatever you're painting, play with all the papers, see which one you like. We're going to be using Michael Harding today. I've got quinacridone red, Hansa Yellow Medium, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. And some of these should granulate really well. I also have a surprise little addition to our family. This is Lapis Lazuli. Now, Lapis Lazuli is the parent, I want to say, of ultramarine. Historically, it's a pigment that was used before ultramarine. This one is from Afghan, and I just wanted to test it out and see how it compares. It's usually not as intense in pigmentation, but it'll be a fun one to put in there, and I've got a fun way for us to do our little swatching today. So some of these, in fact all of these, are already in a palette. So that's what I'm going to be using today. You can see this is a palette that I've already opened and used. But some of these are right here, this second one. Now these pans have been used, so there's a little bit of other colors in here. But here's the Hansa Yellow Medium. Here is the quinacridone Rose, this right here. So this one. And then the ultramarine is right here. Beautiful, beautiful paint. And then down here we have the burnt sienna, which in Michael Harding is a PR 101. And I usually like to have it be a PBR 7, but this has been nice. It's been good to mix and I've enjoyed it. So forgive my messy palette. I was painting yesterday and I haven't cleaned it, but I will before we start testing. And I'll put our little swatch sheet up top so you guys can see that. And I don't have this one in a pan yet, so let me show you what I'm going to do. Where are those little guys? For those of you who don't know, I recently cleaned and reorganized my studio, which means I'm still having trouble finding things. So bear with me. I'll be right back. Aha. These little guys were hiding behind something. Now, many of you have seen these little porcelain palettes that you can get in art supply stores. These are from Amazon. They are a restaurant, like a dipping thing. They're perfect. You can use these and they're a lot cheaper and you can get many of them. So if this is something you'd like to do, I'll link to everything in the description. There'll be affiliate links. So that's one way to support my channel at no additional cost to you. And I definitely appreciate that if you decide to shop from my links. By the way, no one has sponsored me today. I just want to make that really clear. This is everything you're seeing was purchased with my own money. And yeah, let's get started. Let me first clean my palette. I've just got a spray bottle here of water. Let me just get this cleaned off and then I'll be right back with you. Normally, I don't clean my palettes because I will use the rest of that pigment again. And it's good pigment. And I never want to not use whatever paints I have out. And in fact, this is, I can't lie, this is a little difficult for me to just clean this off. However, I want to give you guys a good view of what's up with these paints, and we don't want to have piles of other things going on. So we'll go ahead and clean this off. Speaking of this, I wanted to tell you that if you're painting and you do want to leave your palette like this so that you can use those paints again, that's fine. And even if you do clean your palette off, no worries. Make sure that you do not close your palette until those paints are dry. Now, if you're out and about and you're painting and you need to close it to get home, that's fine. But try to remember to open it up and let it dry very thoroughly before you close it again. Because paints can get sticky and moldy, and they can, depending on what they're made of, it's better to let your paints really dry and cure before you close it up again. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here, let's see, I'm going to take the Lapis Lazuli and just put a little bit of it out on the, ooh, that's a lot more than I wanted. That happens sometimes, but that's okay. I think that happens a lot to me in particular because I live at altitude, and when things are shipped, you know, the altitude changes. It's kind of like when you get a bag of chips and it's just a really tight pillow. That happens to me all the time. All my chips are pillow bags. Wouldn't that be fun if you could sleep on a bag of chips? All right, so here's what we're going to do. I should have put it in here. Completely forgot I had this thing. Okay, let's do that. You know what? Let's just do that. I'm going to get a palette knife. You guys are seeing the struggle's real sometimes with me. I will pick up most of this. And just put it in the palette there. All right, starting over. Let's zoom in a bit. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera. Get some water here on the subject. I'm just kind of cleaning it off of the palette knife so that I can make sure and use all of this. There, that's pretty good. Stay. There we are. Alrighty, friends. Now, before I make too big of a mess, because that's exactly what's happening. My goodness. All right, when you're swatching watercolors, lots of ways that you can do it. Here's some just playing with colors that I've done. You can see here's some granulating colors right here. You can see how the pigments have landed in different heights on the paper. And then here when you have color mixes too, that'll happen. You'll have a staining pigment with a granulating pigment. and they land at different heights on the paper. What we're going to do today, though, is something a little more fun. We're going to play with some leaves in the spirit of fall. And we're just going to see what these are like as we swatch them out. And we're just going to have fun painting leaves. The brush I'm using is a number 12 Silver Black Velvet, which is a very soft, very thirsty fiber. So we'll start up here. Very light, very sheer. Put a little bit of concentrated pigment down. And we'll create a little stem. There we go, that's our Lapis Lazuli. And now let's just compare that directly with the ultramarine. See the difference in the vibrancy of the pigment right away. You can really tell. Drop some more into the bottom. I like how delicate this is, though. That's a very nice blue. Now let's go into our Hansa yellow medium here. Making sure that we're really rinsed. I'll scoot over so you guys can see the palette. There we are. This is a really nice paint because it's so vibrant. I love Hansa yellow. It's like having a little bit of sunshine. I like it a lot more than a lemon yellow because a lemon yellow can tend to look a little bit neon to me. And now we'll try that quinacridone red. And then finally, the burnt sienna. All right, now let's get into some mixing of these. See how they mix. Let's start with the Lapis Lazuli. Right away, you can see how that granulation is starting to show up on the paper. You can really see it forming here as well. So let's play with this Lapis Lazuli a little bit. I'm going to take some and bring it over here. And it's a very light pigment. You might be tempted to use more of it, but I think the grace in this one is just to accept that it's very delicate. And when we mix, we probably don't need that much of another color because I have a feeling the Lapis Lazuli is one that's going to be bullied pretty easily. Yeah, sure enough, that green jumped right over to the yellow side quicker than I wanted. So let's do this. Very, very light, very pale. Wow, we can barely see that one, but that's really kind of fun, isn't it? Let's try again. We'll put some more yellow in. And I'm going to add some of that Lapis Lazuli to that. I'll go over this one more time so we can at least see it on camera. There we go. Now let's try mixing that same Lapis Lazuli over here. With some of the quinacridone red. And again, the quinacridone is a very strong pigment, so we're going to want to add just a little bit more of this Lapis Lazuli. Oh, that's a beautiful purple. There we go. I like how delicate these mixes are. This is really nice. And again, that's just because of the Lapis Lazuli. As far as pigmentation goes, these are all very wonderfully pigmented. I think it's time to take a pause though, and let's write down what we're doing so we don't lose our place. Let's see, I'm just looking for a pen here. This one will work. All right, so this is Lapis Lazuli. This is Lapis Lazuli plus quinacridone red. And now let's do the Lapis Lazuli plus burnt sienna. Already on these, the mixes that we've made, can you see how that pigment separation is happening? This one might be a little hard to see, but the yellow is really separating from the Lapis Lazuli, and I know you can see that granulation right there with the blue. Just beautiful. Same thing is happening here where the heavier concentration of pigment has really sunk into the ridges there. So that's what's so fun about having a granulating color. Let's keep playing. We'll go into this Lapis Lazuli again. And now let's just try a little dot of burnt sienna with it. Now what happens when you mix a blue and a red brown is you can come up with a nice gray, or a darker brown, or a kind of a Payne's gray type. I'm looking for kind of a true gray mix. Here we go. This is so lovely and so subtle. I think that if you don't have a Lapis Lazuli in your selection and you struggle with trying to get mixes that are delicate enough, look at how beautiful. This creates a whole way for you to open up and add just some lovely delicate textures. Look at for springtime. Wouldn't all of those would just be absolutely lovely? So the Lapis Lazuli is a good blue. Now it will get bullied around. It will not be the dominant color, and other colors will dominate it. So you need to be aware that when you're mixing, you're going to need to adjust your ratios a little. But just lovely, absolutely lovely. All right, so let's continue to play. I'll turn this palette around. And now let's mix with some of the ultramarine. Got some ultramarine here. And a little bit of that Hansa yellow. This makes such a nice green. I do like mixing ultramarine and a Hansa yellow medium. Trying to get the same kind of value as that one so you guys can kind of compare. There we go. That's pretty good. All right, so here we have then ultramarine plus Hansa yellow medium. So we're going to compare these two as they dry here. And then now we'll do the ultramarine and the quinacridone red. So let's see, here we are with the quinacridone red. We'll put some right here. And then going into the ultramarine, you can make the purple more towards the blue or towards the red. We're going to try and make it the same value as this one. Let's see here. It's a little more red, but that's okay. Some of this extra paint tap down in here in this section where the leaves come together. All right, and that is the ultramarine plus the quinacridone red. And I think I've got room for one more here. We can do a small leaf with the burnt sienna and the ultramarine. That's a mix that I just really rely on, and I tend to use it for just about every time I need a neutral. If you don't want to mix, I recommend getting a neutral tint. Neutral tint is so great to have, and you can find them in varying colors and shades and varying pigment makeups, I guess I should say. I like the ones that are truly neutral. I know that M-Gram tends to lend purple. That's not a bad thing. It's just a feature of it. So if that's something that you like, then maybe look for the M-Gram. But this is such a nice gray, and it's just a real good neutral gray. So this is the ultramarine and the burnt sienna. We'll look at these again after they've had a chance to dry, but you can kind of see how, you can definitely see how this one is really granulating. That's quite lovely. But I hope that these mixes are really coming through quite well for you. The Lapis Lazuli tends to separate away from the Hansa Yellow more than the ultramarine does, so that's something to know. If you want to add some more texture, maybe this one would be a better mix for you. Same with the ultramarine and the quinacridone red, although you will see an awful lot of granulation happening in here. The ultramarine and burnt sienna, I think the same thing is going to happen. You're not going to see the same amount of separation as you do here, but realize that all of these could simply be the way that I'm mixing it. Everything in art is subjective. Whether you like it or not, or whether you mix it a certain way or not, it's all subjective. Now, the one mix that we have not done is the quinacridone red and the Hansa Yellow medium, and then the burnt sienna with these. So let's try throwing a brush around. We'll just stick some leaves in corners here because I've kind of exceeded my space limitations, but that's okay. Let's see, that's the Hansa Yellow medium, and here comes a quinacridone red. I really like having a primary palette because what you can do is you can mix the entire color wheel, and you can also make some wonderful skin tone pigments. We're just going to do 2 color mixes here, but if you were to mix red, yellow, and blue, you could come up with a really nice skin tone. Now, I don't recommend using ultramarine blue unless you really want a lot of texture in that skin. But this way, I'm just going to go over this here like so, because this is a mix of these pigments. Right away, I can see the yellow separating away from there. One thing you'll notice when you're mixing pigments like this too, you will see the separation occur over in your palette as well. Just kind of fun. And this one is the Hansa Yellow medium plus the quinacridone red. Seeing some great separation and even some granulation happening there with that one, I believe. Oops, sorry. Kind of see how it's darker down in the valleys. We'll see how that dries. Let's see, what other one do we need to mix? The burnt sienna. We can do some burnt sienna mixing. I'll clean up some of these here. And let's get that Hansa Yellow medium. And we'll mix that with the burnt sienna. Beautiful fall color on that one. I'll tuck that one in right here. This is Hansa Yellow medium plus burnt sienna. And now we need to mix the burnt sienna with that quinacridone rose. Quinacridones are very powerful. There we go. And that makes kind of a nice, oh, you could use that for leaves, you could use it for rocks. It's a good base for lips or cheeks. I think I'll put this one right here. See what a nice blood tone that has? That would get some really nice different skin tones out for you. Just adding a blue to that would be really nice. In fact, let me do a real quick notation here that this is burnt sienna plus quinacridone red. And now that I've got this mixed over here, I just want to show you what I mean about achieving a tan. I'm going to go into the Lapis Lazuli, which is, remember, not a bully at all. It's a very light, light blue. And right away, we've brought that shade down to where we can have a really nice base for a darker skin tone. And all you have to do is continue to mix those ratios rather, and you can make the skin tone lighter or darker. just really lots of versatility. So when you have your sets of paints, if you just want to get a few just to try, I think this Michael Harding set is really a good idea. I like how you can mix the range of skin tones. I like the paints themselves. I like how they granulate. Adding that Lapis Lazuli, though, I think is a really good choice because you can just really get the subtleties and achieve some mixes that maybe you normally wouldn't already have. And when you're swatching, maybe consider making a little design as you're swatching, because it does make it fun. It does make it a little more interesting, and it gives you a chance to springboard off of your mixes to decide, well, what else do I want to mix with that? How else do I want this to look? And you can make all the leaves overlap, do however you want. But there's your introduction to the Michael Harding set. I will put a lot of information in the description too about pigments and where I purchased these. And you can also learn about their light fastness. All of these are made with, these are all artist quality paints, so I wouldn't have any worries at all using these for any kind of professional artwork whatsoever. That Lapis Lazuli, again, is just a very delicate version, I would call it, of the ultramarine. It is, of course, its own paint, but it's a great addition to your palette. If you're just starting out, this is a great basis to start from because you can mix all your colors. What I would do is I would add a warm red, a cool blue, and this one I think is kind of a neutral yellow. I'd either add a very warm yellow or a very cool yellow, like a lemon yellow. Burnt sienna is great to have. It's one of your neutrals. You could add a Payne's gray, a green, say, and a purple, and then you'd be all set. So if you want to try Michael Harding and really have fun with mixes, they're just beautiful paints. I have had no problems with them, and I'll be painting actual paintings with them in the future, but I just want to introduce you to this set. And, oh, look at that. I'm calling it quinacridone red. It's quinacridone rose. Sorry. I have words that stick in my head. If you don't know me by now, then now you know that's my quirk. Anyway, enjoy. This is a really fun set to play with, and I hope that you guys get a chance to try some new paints this fall and maybe swatch your paints in a fun way. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye now.